The narcissist can't stop thinking about you now. You are constantly occupying their minds. It's like they can't get enough of you. They're all over you like a rash. And it's like no matter what you do, you just can't shake them off. You can't get rid of them. You can't get them away from you. And you're here with me today because you want to know why. You want to know why they can't stop leaving you alone. Why they keep popping up on your social media, blowing up your phone. You want to know what is going on in their minds. Because clearly they can't stop thinking about you now. They're constantly watching you or trying to communicate with you. And you just don't understand it. But you want to know, you want to understand. Because maybe you just want it to stop. Or maybe you just like some insight into their minds. You'd like to know, what are they thinking? What's driving this obsession? I mean, as victims or survivors, from what I've seen, I mean, we're not too bad looking. But their obsession is really insane. It's like they just can't leave us alone. Are we really that attractive? What's going on? Let's talk about it. Let's try to understand things from their point of view, of how they are seeing it, of how they are seeing you, or really not so much how they are seeing you. Because when you're dealing with a narcissist, it's really very little about you. And that's the whole point, is they're narcissistic. They're self-absorbed. It's all about themselves. So we're going to be looking into what exactly has gone wrong for them to make them this way. Because clearly something isn't functioning properly. Something isn't working correctly, which has gotten them off course. Or rather, maybe they're trying to get things back on track with you as their source of supply, because this is what they do. They're very hungry, they're predators, constantly seeking for prey. And that's what we are to them. We are a snack, a meal to these narcissists. And yes, they want to consume, devour you in any way that they can, in any way that they think is going to work best for them. And you wonder why they go about it in a certain way, in a way that seems quite peculiar. They're just doing whatever they think is going to maximize their meal. Whatever's going to let them consume as much as they possibly can from you. And yet many of you get it confused. You think that because you're not hearing from them so much and they're just stalking you and they seem to be obsessing over you, that something is wrong with you, or that they're not really interested in you anymore, or that they have a new supply. When actually, no, they're just taking a different route to get it. Because different things work better for different narcissists. It depends on what narcissist you're dealing with. Some of them are going to be more overt, some more covert. Some are going to be cerebral, somatic. You know, there's all different kinds of narcissists. And why are there different kinds? Why do different narcissists operate in different ways? It's because one way that another narcissist uses isn't going to work for another narcissist. It's not going to be as effective. It's not going to help them to maximize the supply. A narcissist will do anything if it maximizes the supply. Whatever is most efficient, that is the method that they will use. Like I was saying in yesterday's live video, when you see an overt narcissist, it's because they've learned that that's what works for them. That's the most efficient means for them to maximize the supply, maximize the amount of attention, validation, admiration, possibly money and resources as well. But the ones that are more covert is because they've learned that that's what works for them, such as playing the victim. So it's whatever they think is going to work best for them. That's the route that they're going to take. And, you know, that's not to say that they don't make mistakes. Of course they do. I'm sure many of you who watch my videos, you feel like they're operating in a very self-sabotaging way. It's like maybe they're being very overt, very arrogant with you. And it's like, no, they could just calm down and things would work much better for them. Or maybe some of you, you're dealing with a covert narcissist, and if they were just a bit more confident, then things would work out better for them. I'm sure many of you will definitely see that, and even the same with cerebral and somatic narcissists. You may be dealing with a cerebral narcissist and they're just too much about their brain, their mind, their intelligence. A somatic narcissist is so much about their looks, their appearance, and it just gets boring after a while. You're thinking, is that all that you've got? Isn't there more to you as a person? And of course, you know, that's not even what they've got at all. These are just methods that they use to secure supply. Whatever they think is going to be most efficient with you. But yeah, it becomes a real problem for them when these methods, these strategies fail them. This is what causes them to not stop thinking about you. As an example, a narcissist who's trying to charm you with their intelligence, and you're just not so much interested in that. And maybe you're looking for something more physical, more intimacy. And so they will become obsessed with that then. They themselves will become maybe obsessed with sex, physical intimacy, because they're trying to learn, they're trying to understand. What is your fascination with this? What does this do for you? How can I become more like this so that I can charm you? Is how they may be thinking. And of course, the same thing with a somatic narcissist. They may be so much about their bodies, their appearance and sex, but then they may see that you're more interested in learning things, watching documentaries, reading books. So they then start to become fascinated with that. But normally they don't even care about it. But they will seemingly develop an interest in it because they see that as a more efficient strategy. So then they can't stop thinking about you. They're constantly having to see, what are you doing and what's on your social media? What are you posting? They become very interested in that. So this is a big part of the obsession. It's when they can't get the supply. That's why they obsess, because I can tell you this, right? Any narcissist, if they've got the supply on tap whenever they want it, they're not going to be obsessing over anything. The obsession begins when they are in lack, when they are deficient in something. That's when they get obsessed. They do not get obsessed when they are in abundance, when they have everything. You'll never see an obsessed narcissist who's grandiose, has a good job, tons of money, family, friends, and maybe other sources of supply as well. They're not going to obsess over anything, other than, of course, their own image. But of course, a narcissist who hasn't secured supply, they're not going to be so preoccupied with their image. They're going to be more flexible then, more adaptable, at least at first. And they're going to be more outwardly focused, looking around at what other people need them to be so that they can secure that supply. And this is where you will notice the really just complete lack of identity. And this isn't just with narcissists, this is with anyone. If someone is in poverty, if someone doesn't have their needs met in life, what are they going to do? Of course, they're going to start looking around to try and figure out, how do they do something about it? How do they get what they want? How do they get the job that they would like to have, and the boyfriend, the girlfriend that they want, the money? How do they get these things? They're going to start looking around for that. So then naturally, that person, if they haven't already, is going to lose touch with themselves, with their identity, because they're having to act like a chameleon, a shapeshifter, to mold themselves into what other people need them to be so that they can align with them and get their needs met. That's just how it works. But then also on the other side of the coin, it's like, even the grandiose narcissist who appears to have some form of identity and they're very confident, really they're not. I mean, it's all built upon things that are external, outside of them. Their identity is their car, their home, their supposedly perfect partner, as they present them to be, their perfect children. That's what their identity is based on, not anything real, not any real character. So it's on both sides. I mean, either way, whether it's a grandiose narcissist, a covert narcissist, there's always a lack of identity there, because of course they need supply. They can't live without it. But definitely you're going to see the obsession more with covert narcissists. You're not going to see that so much with overts, grandiose. They're not going to be so obsessed with anything. And also with cerebral narcissists, they're more likely to develop an obsession because they're more about the mind. They're more about thinking. Whereas a somatic narcissist who's more about the body, they're probably less likely to develop an obsession, unless, of course, because they project, they may become obsessed with someone else's body. Because, you know, that's just how it works. As if they are obsessed with their own looks, their own appearance, their own bodies, then they're likely already on that same wavelength for someone else. That's just how it works. Give it a thumbs up if this is making sense to you so far. Because yeah, the narcissist can't stop thinking about you. And this is why. So, in simplest terms, you challenge their superiority. Before they met you, before they got involved with you, they felt like they're superior to everyone. They felt like they're above everything. They're perfect, flawless, faultless. But then they met you, and it's like they felt like you were better than them in certain ways. So they began to feel intimidated, threatened, inferior to you. And that's why they then became very jealous, competitive, possessive over you. They wanted to control you. Because being around you, being involved with you, make them feel insecure. That's why they then have this need for control, possession, as a result of their insecurities. Because you challenge their false sense of superiority. I mean, they were never superior anyway. But up until that point, they were able to live in this delusion, in this fantasy world where they were superior. but then they saw you and you were outside of them. You were not an extension of them. You were just your own individual self doing your own thing. And they had to possess you. They had to control you, to control that perception of themselves that they were getting back from you, that you were reflecting to them. They had to gain control of that. And in that process of trying to gain control, possession of you, to regulate the emotions, to make them feel more secure about themselves, yes, they can't stop thinking about you. Yes, they obsess over you. Yes, they're constantly thinking, what have I got to do? What have I got to say to get this person to see me in the way I want to be seen? To validate their sense of superiority. Even if at first it's kind of like a perfect union. You fuse together as one. And then if that doesn't work, then they turn against you, they devalue you. But you're still an extension of them. You're just everything that they don't like about themselves. They disown the parts of themselves that they don't like and assign them to you. That's what happens when you expose the mask and you reveal the what's underneath the false self. But yeah, they hate it when they lose control over you. They need that control. Without it, they feel insecure because they can't control themselves. They can't control their own emotions, as many of you may have seen already. So it's all based off of you. It's all based off of targeting someone who challenged their superiority, made them feel less than perfect, and then gaining possession, control over that person, to then regulate their sense of themselves. But also, I mean, the supply that you provided to them, the attention, validation, admiration, it can't be easily replaced. This is how you know when you can't be easily replaced, when they can't just go off and find a new source of supply. You will know it because they can't stop thinking about you. They obsess over your supply because what you have is rare. Or at least it's rare until it doesn't seem rare to them anymore. It's kind of like a diamond. What makes what is it? Is a VS or a VVS diamond? What makes it so expensive is its rarity. There's not so many of them. And it's the same thing with supply. It's the same thing with what makes anyone obsess over anything. Because if there was an abundance of it, you're less likely to obsess over it. And this is why typically once you've been around the narcissist for a certain amount of time, they're not so obsessed with you and they are looking elsewhere for supply. Because why they become obsessed with you in the beginning is because they felt like they didn't have full control over you and you weren't already exclusive to them. You seemed rare, maybe unattainable at the time. But once they've attained you, once they've got control over you, you're not rare anymore. Now they know you, they've learned you. You're not that precious diamond to them anymore, in most cases. Of course, there are certain people, there are certain personalities. I'm not going to get into it too much because, to be honest, I don't really know that much about it myself. But what I do know is that there are personalities that are very mysterious. It's kind of like, it's like a bottomless well. Like no matter how much time you spend around this type of person, you just can't get enough. And you always want more. I mean, usually if you've seen someone's face enough times, you've seen their body, you've heard them talk for long enough, then you've had enough. It's kind of like when you're eating food, you eat a certain amount and it's good, you're satisfied. Such as an example, ice cream. Typically everyone is going to have their limit with ice cream, even if it's vegan Ben and Jerry's, which I haven't had for a very long time, and it's very delicious. Even if, like me, you can manage to eat an entire tub of vegan Ben and Jerry's, by the end of it, you're going to feel maybe even a little bit sick. You might even skip dinner. But with the narcissist and you, they can't ever get enough of you. If you were that grade A supply, if you have this kind of personality, it's never enough for them. Because something is happening outside of you. I mean, we're getting kind of spiritual here, but something is going on that they can't control, that they can't possess, because normally a narcissist gains possession, control over someone, and then it's over, they get bored. So there's something going on. There's something that you have. And you may not be conscious of it, it may not be active, it may be passive. But whatever it is, you have something that they cannot understand, they cannot figure out, they cannot make sense of it. It's kind of like when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle. And if you haven't already seen the picture on the box, it's like you're putting the pieces together and you can't see the full picture yet. You don't know what it's going to look like. And it's the same thing sometimes like with a person's face. Or at least from my perspective, I mean, this is how I've seen it. Is that if I've seen a certain kind of person's face, like from a distance, like not close up, it's like I don't really know what they look like exactly. They're still kind of mysterious to me. And especially with an intimate partner, and you're not that close to them yet, there's still a lot of mystery surrounding what they might look like naked. And maybe how good they might be in bed. There's all of these things to uncover, to reveal. So it's kind of that same thing with the narcissist and you. And it suggests that you must have a very deep personality. You must be constantly growing. Because otherwise, if you're stagnant, if you're fixed, and if you lack depth of character, then there's not much for them to figure out. There's not much for them to understand. They're going to get bored very quickly. They're going to move on to someone else. So you must be a very puzzling person, but in a good way. And they're just fascinated by you. They can't get enough. And what you will notice in most people, you know, this is from my experience, from what I've witnessed, is that most people stay hooked on a person because they haven't fully uncovered them. They haven't fully revealed everything that they want to be revealed. And this could be in all sorts of ways. This could be picking their brain, trying to understand their perspectives of things, seeking closure, understanding. It could be something physical as well. It could be to do with a hobby, an interest. So they haven't reached the end of the book. They haven't watched the end of the movie. It's like there's always another episode. There's always another series, a sequel. And maybe the last one ended in a cliffhanger. So there's still a lot of mystery there. So this is it. This is what really creates an obsession for people. And if you're this type of person, if you have this type of personality, you don't have to play any games with anyone. You don't have to use any tricks, any manipulation. You're just going to pull them in naturally. Because you just come across as very mysterious. You're not revealing too much. And you maybe just have a very deep personality. So this definitely intrigues the narcissist, because they're all about learning someone and pushing their buttons, getting a reaction, seeing what works with them. They're all about figuring things out. It's just they do it very fast. And then once they've done that, once they've achieved their goal, once they've just gotten as much out of you as they can in the shortest amount of time possible, then they're bored, it's over with, and then they move on to the next person. That's the type of personality they have. They just want to secure you, lock you down, and then their eyes are elsewhere, onto something else. But it seems like they can't do that with you. It doesn't work that way with you. And this is why I forgot to mention, but I'll mention it now. This is why your attention, your admiration, your validation is so valuable. It's because you have a very deep character, a deep personality. You can be very descriptive about things. So you can reveal so much more to them than they've already gotten. I mean, yeah, you may have called them handsome, beautiful, but you could say so much more. You could comment on their hair, their teeth, their clothes, just so many different things. And it just means that much more from you, because they just can't figure you out. They can't fully understand you. And not only that, but because you're constantly moving, you're constantly growing. What they really want to do is pin someone down and just pull it all out of them. Just get out all of the compliments, all of the praise, and then just discard them, forget about them. But they can't do that with you, because you're constantly moving, constantly growing. You've always got so much more to give. And it's like, even when they think they've got you, they pinned you down, and you're giving them your utmost praise, your utmost worship, they're still thinking, yeah, but there could have been more. There could have been something else. Just look at them now they're going off, and they're still growing, they're still moving on to something else. That's how they're thinking with you. Because maybe you've got other people in your life who are important to you. You have your job, you have other interests. So there's all this stuff going on. While so many people, they're just very simple. They just follow the crowd, they follow trends. They have a very shallow, superficial personality. They're very empty, so they haven't got so much to give. But you have so much depth. And that's why your attention, your validation, admiration is so important to them. It's because you're so mysterious. They can't figure you out. It's like you just appeared out of nowhere, and they don't know where you come from. Or maybe you're the kind of person who likes to try different styles. You wear your hair differently. You like to wear different clothes all the time. And so it's always different with you. It's always new. And then there's that element of mystery there. So it's kind of like, if you're first starting to date a narcissist, and at the beginning you're just sitting in the car and they can only see like the right or left side of your face. They don't really see you from the front. There's still so much mystery there. There's still so much to uncover, to reveal. This is just how our minds work, even those who aren't narcissists. So you think about things like that, and you can see how there's just so much more for them to reveal about you. And that's why your attention and validation and admiration still hold so much value. And it still can, no matter how many times they see your face, no matter how many times they see you with their clothes off, no matter how much they learn about you, it's like there's always more. And it's never enough. It's like they've never got you. They've never pinned you down. They've never seen everything that there is. And so there's still that element of mystery there. That's why they can't stop thinking about you. They obsess over you because it's like they know there's more. They know there's another episode. They know there's a sequel. And you just left them on a cliffhanger. They want to see what's next. Because they know you got more to offer. They know you haven't revealed everything. They know they haven't seen it all already. And that's just what you do. And it's not that you do it deliberately. It's just, it's the type of personality that you have. With you, it's more slow. You don't want to give everything away too quickly. You like things to unfold naturally. And that's good. But they are the opposite. They want everything to be quick, fast. It's either quick or it's just nothing with them. So this is what makes your attention, specifically yours, so valuable. It's because of that mystery. And also, I mean, let's keep it real. Of course, there's going to be other superficial things, such as money, status, power, wealth, physical attractiveness. These things are going to entice them as well. It's going to make your supply that much more valuable. Although, what I will say is that it does appear to be going the opposite way a lot of times. As I've mentioned in past live videos, is that many narcissists these days, when they see someone who's physically attractive, when they see someone who has a lot of money, drives a nice car, wears expensive designer clothes, they're not looking at this as something that's powerful. They're seeing these things as a weakness. Of course it's a weakness because it's something they can take. It's something they can exploit. So anything you have that's of value to you, that's important to you, they're not really seeing that as a strength in you. To them, that's a weakness. So it's kind of going the opposite way now because boundaries are being crossed. And there's a lot of like thieves everywhere these days compared to how it used to be. And that's why I say, if you can avoid having a nice car and a big home, then, just avoid doing that. Avoid wearing expensive branded clothes. Avoid going to the expensive grocery stores because you never know who's watching you. You never know who's trying to get in with you, who's trying to get what you've got. You've got to be very careful these days. And anyway, I mean, even if you are successful, you are attractive, most people these days, they're not going to like you for that. They're just going to get jealous. They're going to hate you for it. It's going to be something that they want to take for themselves. So keep all of this in mind. Because, people are watching. People are hungry. People want things from you. And I'm sure that's what many of you experience from dealing with narcissists. It's like, you didn't know that people like this were out there. That people were looking at what you've got and trying to take it for themselves. They weren't trying to build with you. But yeah, this is real. This is what a lot of people are like. So yeah, you have this supply that they can't easily replace. And so your absence wounds their fragile ego. It makes them feel unimportant. Because they look at it like if they were important, then they would possess you, they would control you. And so they're obsessed with how you see them now. It's kind of like, initially they may have been fishing for a compliment with you. And they didn't get that. So now they're obsessed with how you see them now. They're trying to think, oh, okay, what have I got to do then? What have I got to wear? What have I got to drive? What have I got to say to get you to like me, to get a positive response out of you? Is how they may be thinking, because they were fishing for that before and they didn't get it. So again, this is what creates the obsession. And they're just constantly trying to see things from your perspective, your perception. How are you seeing them? What would make them more attractive for you? What would make them seem more powerful? So that it can complete them and make them feel better. They're thinking about all of these things. Narcissists are very anxious. They always want to be seen a certain way. They orchestrate everything. They want to be seen in a very specific way so that they can get that supply. Because that's how they get supply from people, is when they can be exactly whatever they think you want them to be, whatever they think you want to see. If they can become that, then it reaches a certain threshold. It's like, yeah, they've hit that sweet spot where it's like you then surrender, you let go, you drop your defenses and you become more vulnerable. You're like in awe of them. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to hit that spot, that threshold that you've got, to where it's like, yeah, this fits in with my ideal, this fits in with what I like. And then it's like, yeah, I got you. And then they feel validated. Because of course, they've got to get that externally from you. So this is how they're thinking. And they're always thinking this way. They're always in pursuit of this attention. And they're constantly looking around. And they make a lot of assumptions. They do, you know, they're thinking, already they're kind of thinking that they're already enough. If they're an overt narcissist, they're already going to be thinking that way. If they're covert, then they may be pushing more to get that response from you. But if we're talking about those who are higher up on the spectrum, overt narcissists, especially psychopaths, they're just going to make the assumption. They're going to be like, yeah, I bet you think I look good. I bet you think I'm powerful. They're not going to be pushing so much for that response. They're just going to assume that. So they're kind of delusional. Covert narcissists tend to be less delusional than them. And so they've got to push for that reaction from you. They can't just give it the benefit of the doubt. They got to become exactly what you need them to be. And this is why, you know, with overt grandiose narcissists, they come across as such jerks, such assholes. And psychopaths, they come across as so creepy. They just seem completely delusional. They seem so off because they're making assumptions. They're not really connecting to your experience. They're not using that cognitive empathy so much. And that's just how it is, you know. The further up the spectrum you go to overt narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, there is less empathy there, less cognitive empathy. So the covert narcissists, they're going to be pushing you for that reaction. They're going to be poking and prodding at you, trying to become who you need them to be and orchestrate it exactly how it needs to be so that they get something out of you, they get a little smirk, they get a laugh. They think that you're attracted to them, and then it's like, yes, okay, I got you. Okay, I am something. I am attractive now. That's how they're going to be thinking. But of course, they have to be thinking about it first. It creates this obsession, especially if you don't just give it away straight away. Then they're constantly thinking, okay, what button have I got to push to get this out of you? To get this response, to get the supply, to get what I want so I can feel better. And that's what drives them. That's what creates this obsession to where they just can't stop. And this is why, especially if you're grey rocking and you're aware of this information, you're going to start seeing a lot more obsessed narcissists. Either that or those who just completely cut you off. But that's only if they have another option. If there's someone else who they can pursue, who they perceive of value, and they value their attention, their admiration. Thank you for the donation, Owen Perea. I'm glad you're finding this video helpful. You're not going to hear much of this information anywhere else online, but this is real. Most people won't talk about it in this much depth, but this is what's going on. And if you do the research about these disorders and the differences between a covert and someone higher up the spectrum, you'll see everything I'm saying here is 100% true. This is exactly how it is. So this is why they can't stop thinking about you. This is why they obsess over you. This is the process that's going on in their minds. And this is what they're looking for. They're trying to hit that threshold, that spot, that sweet spot, where it's like, yeah, I got you now. Now I feel validated. I feel admired, powerful, superior. And then that keeps them going for a little while. And it's the same thing when they're devaluing you, when they're abusing you. They have to hit a certain threshold of pain in you, but you can't take it anymore. And then in their minds, it just clicks and it's like, all right, yeah, I got you, that's enough. All right, now I feel like I've dominated you, I've crushed you. Now I can let it go, I can relieve the pressure. I can feel more calm now, and I can point the finger at you. Now you're the problem. Because you reacted, you got angry, you cried. It's always like that with them. There's always a threshold that they've got to hit. And until they reach that threshold, they won't be able to stop thinking about you. They're going to keep obsessing over you, whether it's something good or something bad, whether they're seeking a compliment from you, or whether they're seeking to cause you pain, harm. Until they reach that threshold, until they push it all the way, they're going to keep obsessing, they're going to keep thinking about you. And if that's what you want, then it's good for you, because they are insatiable. Now, many of them, it's kind of like, even once they reach that certain threshold, it's like, what if they could push it a bit more to the next level and the next one, and then the one above that? Because they're so egotistical, the ego always wants more. They're never satisfied. So it gets normalized over time. They may have done something initially. It's kind of like, you will always see them trying to go up, trying to shock and impress people more and more. They're never going to go down. If you see them going down, that's something very rare. That could be a sign of healing. It could be a sign of growth. But you're unlikely to see that. Most of the time, they're going to be going up. They're going to keep going up. They're always going to want more money. They're going to have to splash more cash on a more expensive car so that they can shock people even more. And it's like, yeah, I got that. You knew I'd get that, but you didn't think I'd get this one. And it's like, yes, I got you. I've reached that next level of threshold again. Because the last one was normalized. It didn't do it for them anymore. And you may have seen their last car, they barely even washed it. But now this one, they're washing that every day. It's because they're like, yes, this is it. This is the one. This is the new level. This is the one that gets me attention now. And we're talking about cars, but this could be with anything. It could be with a partner, a child, the clothing that they wear. Remember, they're slightly delusional, so it could be something, it's whatever is within their means. I mean, I remember I saw someone before at a mall, and it's like, it's just completely, he's just wearing like completely plain clothes, but then he had this this D&G Dolce & Gabbana belt with a huge D&G, the, whatever you call the thing on the front. And he had his shirt tucked in, and he was like really showing it off. It's like he really thought he was the man, like he owned them all or something. This is what they're like. Or they'll reduce it down to whatever's in their means, and they just kind of tune everything else out. And in their minds, it's like, all right, I may not have the D&G shirts, the D&G jeans, the D&G shoes, but I've got the D&G belt right now. And that's all I'm focused on. And that's all I'm going to draw attention to. That's why I got my shirt tucked in. This is how they think. I don't know, D&G they went out of business years ago now, but I used to like that stuff myself. I mean, when I was younger, I was quite into designer clothes and all of that. I mean, it's just how I was raised, but now, I am seeking more, like a deeper meaning to life. But this is exactly what they're like. They're always trying to do things to shock you into being in awe, like admiring them, seeing them a very specific way. And if it doesn't mean anything to you, it can get quite dangerous. They will become even more boastful, more aggressive. And in their minds, it's kind of like, what are you, blind? From the overt narcissist point of view. It's like, what are you, stupid? You don't know how much this costs, kind of thing. They'll really just try and flaunt it on you then. And then they start to kind of just treat you with contempt and look down on you. As for the covert narcissist, they're going to be studying more. They're going to be more analytical. They're going to be thinking, all right, I didn't get you with this one. I'm going to pull back on that because I don't like rejection. I don't want you to humiliate me, but let me come back the next time, once I've prepared, once I've studied you a bit more, and let me see if this works on you. Now that's how the covert narcissist thinks. And the psychopath, now that's another level altogether. I mean, that's like, psychopath. They could have a certain image, and it's like they could be delusional about it as well. And if you don't see it the same way, they might just attack you. They might just try and just damage your reputation. Just try and put you beneath them. They'll cause harm to you if you don't validate their false image. If you don't see it the way that they want you to see it. But it's unlikely that many of you are dealing with that. Maybe dealing with a malignant narcissist, a psychopathy, that's another level altogether. But yeah, these are the processes that go on in their minds. This is how they all think. They're all trying to reach that threshold, and even when they reach it, even when they got the reaction out of you, it never sustains them. It doesn't last. They always need more supply because they have a void that they can't fill. So then, once that becomes normalized, it's like, what about the next level and the next one? I can push it more and more. That's how they think. And this is why it gets more shocking. They become even more, what's the words? Like arrogant, audacious, and like narcissistic women, the somatic ones, they will reveal even more of their bodies. They will reveal more and more. And it's like, how far can they push the boundaries? How much can they shock you with it? They're always trying to push it to higher levels because they can never be satisfied. And once you've already seen it, once you already know about it, then it's kind of like, you know, it's done now. It's not going to work on you. So then they got to try something else. But this is the thing. If these things don't work on you, if you're that kind of person, well, maybe it's just not your thing. Maybe it just doesn't do it for you. You're not interested in what they're doing. You just want a real connection. You're not impressed by it. They're going to obsess over you because they want that from you. They want you to validate them, especially if you've got your own thing going on. And if you have, you've got to be very careful because they may try to sabotage it. Because it'll be like, if they can sabotage your success, or even your appearance, whatever it is, then, because before that, they were kind of delusional, probably looking at you thinking, oh, yeah, look at your job, look at your car, your appearance. I bet you think you're amazing with that. And then they feel so insecure in comparison to you. So then if they can destroy that, it's like, well, now I got something better than what I thought you thought was so good about you. So, hey, now I'm something now. That's how they're thinking. That's why they go to discrediting, sabotaging, isolating, and then trying to make you envious or jealous. It's like, oh, I've taken it from you. I've taken the spotlight. And yeah, like I said, the coverts, they're going to be more strategic about it. They're going to want to know exactly what will work. What's going to work on you? What's going to get that reaction? The overs, they don't even need a reaction. They just kind of self-affirm it to themselves. They're more delusional. Grandiosity makes them delusional, so they're just like, they don't have to look at you. They're just like, yeah, I know you think I'm something. And the psychopaths, it's even more delusional. It's like they don't even take care of themselves sometimes. They're just so detached, so disconnected. And they come across as so creepy. It just seems like something is off. And sometimes they just don't even care. They're just so focused on what's in their heads more than anything else. But yeah, this is really it. This is what creates the obsession. And keep in mind, you know, this isn't always just with narcissists. This is with people, with humans to some degree. Anytime you see something extreme, it's going to be more narcissistic. Miss Cantora Love says they chose a life of freakery. Unfortunately for them, you're right. I mean, that's how it goes. They just end up looking like freaks. And they normalize more and more things, and we become freaks ourselves if we're in with them and we're validating it. And then we come out of their world and we're like, you know, that was freaky. You know, I can't believe I was going along with that. I can't believe that I thought that was cool. But that's how it is. You know, they want to pull you onto it. But really, yeah, a lot of the things that they do are very weird. It's very creepy. It's outrageous. Antisocial even. I mean, these narcissists are really pushing the boundaries. They're doing antisocial things. I mean, if you look at a lot of things you see these days, I mean, it's in everything. Like, you look at the cars, they look so much more aggressive. The cars look like they have antisocial personality disorder. But you see the way that women dress, it's just, they just completely expose themselves in public. It's antisocial. And the way that people act, it's just everywhere these days. And it's all just so like oppositional, competitive, out of insecurity. It's like people just can't be happy with building together. I mean, what happened with that, isn't it? What happened with us working with each other? I mean, isn't that what it was all supposed to be about anyway? Working on yourself, trying to be better, so we could be better for each other. But that's how it is with narcissistic people. It's all about themselves. It's really sad, but this is how the world is these days. But I bet you know, they do some things and they look back with shame and regrets. Unless, of course, you know, they're like psychopaths. But narcissists, I'm sure they do look back. They do certain things, certain outrageous things. And deep down, they feel like, you know, they were a bad person for doing that. They feel like that was wrong. That was too freaky. Too outrageous. But yeah, I'm sharing with you, you know, again, another very different way of describing things. Although if you look into it, if you do the research, you will find, you know, what I'm saying to you is true. This is what they do. It's just most people, they don't talk about it in the way that I do, in these simplest terms that everybody can understand. But yeah, if it's making sense to you, give it a thumbs up. Because it could make sense to a lot of other people as well. I'm explaining this to you in the simplest terms. The exact processes of what goes on in their minds and what they're trying to get out of you, why they can't stop thinking about you, why they obsess over you. And this is real, this is true. I wouldn't share this with you if it was not the truth, if I didn't believe that it was the 100% truth. But I'm always perfecting my craft. I'm listening to new videos every day. I'm reading articles. I'm constantly studying human behavior. You know, this is my life's work. So I'm always learning new things. And that's why, you know, I always read your comments as well, because you always give me different perspectives, and you know, I'm always looking to learn from you too, because there's always different ways of looking at things. And it's not always that this is wrong, this is right. I mean, yeah, sometimes it is. You know, especially in regards to factual information, statistics. But then also there's different perspectives. And it becomes almost like an art to this. There's different concepts, different analogies, different ways of looking at things and understanding things. Hello says, sometimes people like this track your vulnerabilities and will use them against you when you pull away. Just don't take it personally, because they are trying to elicit an emotional response out of you. Yeah, that's what they do. I mean, you know, the overts, the psychopaths, they will probably just use whatever hurt them. They're not going to study you so much. They're not going to take the time. It's going to be more like covert narcissists and high-functioning psychopaths. They're going to study you. They're going to want to know, you know, what is that exact, what's that pinpoint? What is that exact threshold, that exact thing that's going to get to you? To inflict the maximum amount of pain What is it? They're going to want to know, because they're very sick. They have a void. And, they're like junkies. And the more they can shock you, the more they can get you to worship them, the more they can put you down, the greater of a high that they get. And it's addicting to them. And also keep in mind that most of them aren't even conscious of this. They don't really think about what they're doing. They do kind of know that it makes them feel good. They may kind of understand, they're constantly pushing for more. And they're doing riskier and riskier things. Because also the risk and, the fear of getting caught, it all produces a thrill for them. And of course, what happens if you call them out in it? If you just tell them, yeah, I see what you're doing, yeah. Then, of course, they will get angry at you. They will project it onto you. They will blame you. They'll be like, who are you? Who do you think you are? Trying to tell me what I'm doing. Or at least the overts will be more like that. Of course, the coverts, they're more strategic. Lorraine Dan says he used to send me videos of him working and showing me what he'd done for praise. Yeah, that's what they do. They do such silly, childish things. Like they're just thinking about, how am I going to get it? How am I going to get this supply, this validation? What is it going to take? And sometimes they're just anything, like whatever's available, whatever's within their means. And, they know what they're doing, but it's they're at a low level of consciousness. They're in need. It's like they're almost in survival mode. So they're conscious of it, but it's almost like an unconscious process in a way. It's difficult to describe because, we're talking about things from someone else's consciousness. It's difficult to put into words. I mean, I know what it is, but it's difficult for me to describe it to you. But it's kind of like a child saying, look at me. Kim H says you can't leave them alone, like going on a business trip, because they need constant validation and they'll go online if they have to. It has to come from somewhere. That's right. I mean, they're kind of like, a narcissist is kind of like someone who's been on like a COVID lockdown their entire life. And then someone just all of a sudden loosened the reins, like unlocked the door. And then they're just out there running wild. Only they haven't got that excuse. And, they want to make you think they're committed to you. And then they end up betraying you. But yeah, they love it. They love the attention. They love the praise, the validation. They can't get enough of it. And, we've got to look at ourselves too, because it's like, there's obviously something going on with us. We like this kind of attention-seeking person. We're drawn to it. It's, there's something attractive about it. It makes us feel like we're a part of something. It's exciting. And it feels rewarding for us if we can be the person who they want it from. It makes us feel good. So we got to look at ourselves too sometimes to think, why do we want to be that person? Why do we want to be the one to give it to them? Of course, because we're empaths, codependents, people pleasers. That's why. But yeah, they keep pushing the boundaries. They push it further and further. And you thought at first, you know, you were involved in something innocent, and then they're pushing it real hard on you, and then they're thinking of it as a sign of betrayal from you, because they're thinking, well, you signed up for this. You were all in with this in the beginning. They don't think about how they're constantly turning up the heat. "94 live viewers, give it a thumbs up if this is good for you. Sentinel 87 says, bragging about having $200 shoes. That's what they do. They gotta have the flashiest shoes, and it's not enough for them just to wear them. I mean, that sounds like more of a covert narcissist who's trying to be overt. If they have to point it out to you. But you gotta think, you know, if someone's bought $200 shoes and they still have to brag about it, they can't be that nice then, can they? You know, you should just say, wow. Wow, look at your $200 shoes. I'm joking, of course. Don't respond that way, because many of these narcissists, they're onto it. And if you are like giving a sarcastic comment, they're still going to be thinking, yes, I still got a reaction out of you. And they may take it as though you're just bitter about it. You're just jealous. Because many of them, especially overt narcissists, they don't understand. They don't get it. You know, when you're constantly being pestered, harassed, they can't see that it's irritating. They can't see the distinction between someone who is actually jealous compared with someone who's just had enough, just fed up, just wants to be left alone, or just wants a normal interaction, a normal connection, instead of someone who's got to be loud all the time, just constantly show it off because they're so insecure. But this is what they do. And, you know, actually they're the ones who are so competitive. They're the ones who are envious and jealous and get it projected onto you. This is what they do. But yeah, you know, I'll be doing a video about this soon. I'll upload it the next few days. And their behavior, it tells you everything you need to know. It tells you a story. So if you see a narcissist who, you know, they probably never spend $200 on their mental health, but they'll go and splash it out at a pair of shoes, they're telling you a story about themselves. They're telling you that it matters for them to have those shoes. And especially if they don't look like comfortable shoes, they're telling you that it's important for them to get that attention from people. Especially if they're bragging about it. They're telling you just how much other people's opinions, other people's attention matters to them over something superficial. Eddie Wynn says they are craving admiration, not love. That's it, they don't care about connection. Just superficial, shallow admiration. That's what they live for. How are they ever going to connect with anyone with that kind of attitude? I mean, if you're constantly having to show off your stuff, it's like no one can even get close to you. You just end up pushing people away because you're so, like, you take up so much space, there's no room for anyone. Like, sometimes you gotta humble yourself. You gotta reduce your sense of importance. Not so much, of course. You know, not to the point where you open yourself up to predators who could harm you. But, you know, your ego doesn't have to be that big. But also, I mean, you know, these people, they confuse a lot of things. Like with celebrities and entertainment. And it's like they'll hear something in a song and then it's like, oh, they got to do that now. It's like, no, stupid, it's a song. It's music, it's entertainment. It doesn't mean that you got to go out and do it. Or just because Nicki Minaj wore a certain outfit, it doesn't mean that you got to wear something like that. It doesn't mean that you can go out in public dressed that way. It's because they're delusional people. They're living in fantasy. And they use songs and entertainment, movies, to create a shared fantasy. I mean, fair enough, you know, if you use it for a fantasy on your own, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when you take it out into public and you're bringing other people into it, then it creates a serious problem. But of course, this is what they do, and then later on, once it all dies down, and they're left to deal with the reality of what they've done, it brings so much shame on them, and they're left to live in denial. So they just end up ruining themselves. Yes, things can happen in entertainment, in songs, in movies that you can't go out and do in real life. It's like, what? Just because you play GTA, does that mean you get to go out on the street with a gun and just start shooting people? But this is what they do. I mean, maybe not literally that's what they do, but you know, they get these ideas. They just get so wrapped up in fantasy, and they don't know where the line is. Spooky Girl says they are the Chris Watts and Ted Bundy. Chris Watts appeared to be like a lower functioning sociopath. He wasn't really like some master manipulator. I mean, you could see the signs when he was on TV. Ted Bundy, however, I mean, you know, he's well known for being a very charming, charismatic person. He even charmed the courts when he was in court. It's unlikely that most of you would have dealt with someone like Ted Bundy, a high-functioning psychopath. You know, there's different levels to this. But even then, you know, it's all just a false image, because they're not really, it's not real charm. It's just things that they have copied from other people. Gazavelli or Narcissism says Tommy Hilfiger t-shirts. You know, I'm not completely against like materialism, consumerism, although I do think it has gone a bit far. I'm not against it. I mean, you know, I'm wearing a Nike t-shirt myself, and my Nike joggers. So, you know, I have a preference for certain brands. It's just that it's becoming narcissistic. It's becoming about how wonderful I am. Or even now it's becoming antisocial. People are using clothes, cars, their appearance, their bodies as weapons. Like to see other people as their enemy. As though because they're not deserving of you now. Because you wear certain clothes or because you look too good. And it's like, what happened to connection? But it seems this is what they do, you know. They're using brands and using like people's appearance and stuff. And it's divide and conquer to turn everyone against each other. Like, so people start acting antisocial and seeing people as their enemy. When it's like, no, you just made an enemy of that person and you ruined what could have been a good connection. This is what people do. So I'm not completely against brands or anything like that. I mean, you know, if you work hard and, you know, you want to buy some designer clothes, you like the brand, you like the style of it or whatever, then great, you know, enjoy it. But also, you know, let's not forget, a lot of these clothes, like even what I'm wearing now, like this Nike, like the money that I pay for it and yet the cost that they probably pay to make it, it's a huge profit margin. These clothes are made in the same factories as other unbranded clothes. And like really cheap factories in third world countries. And even like expensive designer brands like, you know, all kinds of things like Gucci, Prada, Ferrari, whatever it is. It may say that it's made in Italy, but what they do is they produce the actual item in a third world country with unbranded items using the same materials, the same labor, and then it's just the label. That's what was made in Italy, and then they just stick that on. And yet you pay such high prices for it. So, is it really worth it? Who knows? I mean, I guess, you know, what we're paying for is the meaning behind it. It's kind of like an art to it, I guess. Rather than the cost of the materials. And that's why, you know, I myself, I still buy Nike. I like Nike. Nice to see we've got 114 live viewers. It's really good to see because, you know, I'm sharing some really deep information here. And, you know, it's not just about narcissists, it's about narcissistic people in general. You know, people all around the world, you may see them doing this. And very few people are talking about it. But this is what I'm about, you know, just bringing the truth to light. I like to expose the things that people do. And I talked about it before, you know, people thought that, like, I'm that kind of person. Like I'm some kind of COVID narcissist giving backhanded compliments. And I was so shocked at the time, I didn't know what to say. I just kind of just kept my mouth shut after that. I thought, anything I say could be twisted against me here. But yeah, it's happened to me a few times. And it's because, of like social anxiety, nervousness. Like I'm trying to think like how to be polite, and then I just end up saying the most. But it's not even so much what I'm saying, but it comes across as rude, as something offensive. Because it's kind of like my brain is thinking, what's the worst thing you could say, or the worst possible way that you could say it? And then because I'm resisting it, it persists. And this has happened on numerous occasions, and people have turned against me because of that. But I can honestly say, I can put my hand on my heart and say, I was never that way. I was never thinking anything like that. But that's how they perceived it. And it's, it's incredible how, we can be so disconnected and people can't interpret things the way that we wanted it to be interpreted. But since then, I have become a much better communicator. I've reduced my social anxiety. And so, I think it's very rare that anyone ever misinterprets anything that I say now. So, I've done a lot of work on myself to improve that. But yeah, I always used to really struggle with social anxiety. That was always a big thing for me. And yeah, I'm sure I came across as a jerk myself. Even though I never intended to, I didn't mean any harm. Yeah, there was one, I will give an example. There was one, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but there was one in this karate class. And, I just joined the karate class, and there was this guy that I looked up to. And I think I knew him because he was, I think he was one of my father's friends or something. And I saw that he was eating something, I think, after the class. And, I was just trying to make conversation. I was just trying to like build a connection with someone. But I was kind of nervous. I was suffering from social anxiety. So I thought, just do it, just talk to this person. Don't be afraid. And so I said, I saw him eating something. I said, oh, calories back in. But I was just trying to make conversation. And then he looked at me. And he looked so offended. He was like, yeah, I'm too skinny. And he did seem like he was, maybe a little bit overweight. I don't know. I wasn't thinking of that at the time. But I was definitely more skinnier than he was. So, he definitely took offense to that. And he thought I was making like an intentional insult against him. But I wasn't even thinking that way until he said that. And then I just felt really bad then. And then I didn't talk to him again. But that's just one example of many. And it definitely turned a lot of people against me. But I couldn't help it, it's just the way it was. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that, like where you said things in a certain way, or you use certain words, and people took it a certain way, or maybe it was you, maybe it was your anxiety that, maybe it's not so much of a wrong interpretation from them. It's just you were thinking what is the worst in your mind, and that's how it came out, because you were resisting it, and it persisted. Especially if alcohol or drugs is involved, then it can be really bad. But it's okay, because your true friends, people who are conscious, they will understand you, they will forgive it, they will get it. Just as we will. But yeah, I thought it'd be interesting just to share that with you because, unless you know that I'm not perfect, I've been on my own journey. I'm human just like any of you. Gazavelli on Narcissism says the only thing they change is the mask and the audience they're performing for. Yeah, that's it. They just work on their manipulation. Lorraine Diane says, when we were long distance, he used to pick up on my facial expressions to gauge how much he was adored. Yeah, they're always looking for that, especially the coverts, they're scanning your facial expressions, everything. They're looking right into your eyes and the mouth area, maybe any tension along the forehead, body language, they're listening to your tone of voice, just everything to gauge how you see them. And even how you see them, it's not even real. I mean, you're responding to manipulation, deception, a fantasy. But they take it as though it is real. It becomes real to them. So they see it as though, yeah, you think I'm worthy of admiration? You think I'm attractive? They just skip the part about, actually recognizing that they're manipulating you. They're deceiving you. They're provoking fear and anxiety. They just skip that part because all they care about is the illusion. Raster says they want you at the lowest vibration possible, anger. Anger isn't actually the lowest vibration. It's shame. They don't want you in shame too much because then it's like you're the victim. And then that makes them feel bad. They were to feel like the victim. So that's why they make you angry. Layla, yes, I can see your messages. You're not hidden. 116 live viewers, give it a thumbs up. This is good for you so far. Arwen Perea says, as a designer, I personally do not like rude, materialistic people who don't value the work. Yeah, that's how it is with them. I mean, I bet you that's exactly what they're thinking when they go to buy their clothes, or they're looking at getting a new car. They're probably thinking about, how much attention is this going to get me from people? That's probably the most important thing to them. And there's nothing wrong, if you want to impress people. But the way they do it, it's just all about themselves. It's not about looking good for someone so that you can share something together. It's all about themselves. Green Trees says luxury sheets will last a lifetime. I've definitely noticed in my experience, because I've had designer clothes and I've seen like nice cars in my family like my entire life. And I'm definitely seeing the price is going a lot higher, but the quality is being reduced and the factories are being moved to third world countries. That's what I've been seeing. And it's gotten to a point where, honestly, I think if you bought the fake version, it'd probably be better quality. It does appear that way. I bought some Emporio Armani joggers, sneakers, jacket recently. It all just got wrecked, just stained so quickly. The quality is just garbage now. It lasted the joggers lasted like 1 day. And then all of the gold detail just peeled off. I didn't even wash them. I literally wore them for just a few hours, and the jackets, within like a few days, it got stained, and the sneakers after a few months, the soles just came off. Barely even wore them. And these were very expensive, Emporio Armani. This was just over the last couple of years. And you can imagine how much I spent on that in the mall. Just wasn't even worth it. But I know it didn't used to be that way before. I had Armani jackets, sneakers. I kept them for years, sometimes like 4 or 5 years. And back then didn't even cost like half the price. The quality was much better. And the style as well. So it just doesn't seem worth it anymore. And back then it used to be different, you wear Armani and you get attention from the girls. Now they just seem to hate it. It's like they just envy you because of that. It's like a competition now. must be really difficult for the younger generations. It's like, what do you do? Because even if you try to bet yourself, it just becomes intimidating to people, it seems. A lot of people are playing a game and they're very suspicious. Lorraine Diane says, when you're nervous, you blurt out things you wouldn't normally say. Yeah, that's right. You do. You just blurt out, like, sometimes whatever you think is the worst thing you could say. I remember there was an advert years ago. I think it was a Tango advert, where this guy just walked into like a bar or something, or a restaurant, and he just told everyone the worst possible things you could say about them. I don't know what that had to do with Tango or whatever it was, but I mean, I personally believe you get the best version of someone when they're confident. Oh, there we go. GSB, We Free the People, says Nike makes some of their products in Vietnam and pay $1 per day to the workers. We've got to expose this stuff because that's the only way it's going to get better. If you want Nike, Armani to come back, making better quality products at more realistic prices, this is how we do it. But yeah, I'd love to stay on, seeing that we still got a lot of live viewers here, but I gotta go now to a gym workout and feed Nala. But I really enjoyed this talk. I enjoyed the openness and just discussing these truths with you and making you all more aware, you know, of why they can't stop thinking about you, why they obsess over you. So yeah, hope this was good for you. If it was, give it a like. Here's Nala now, if any of you are wondering. Give it a like. If you're new here, subscribe, click on notifications so that you will be notified when I go live again. And let me know your thoughts, your views in the comment section, or any questions that you may have. Let's start a discussion. If you'd like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, you can do that on my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And if you would like to help support our community, I appreciate all of your donations. No matter how small, you can donate through paypal.me/narcsurvivor. And also follow me on my Instagram to see quotes and short videos. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. So that's it for this one. Thank you all for your support, and I will talk to you in another one very soon.